political commentator Albie Amankona joins us now with his take on this. Albie, what have you got to say?
Good morning. I mean, the situation in Ukraine is absolutely shocking as we wake up this Monday morning to the prospect of war in Europe continuing beyond this week and into the months and weeks to come. The British government has been providing support to Ukraine first in the material of army material and weapons, and now it's just announced that this package of humanitarian aid and also access to the United Kingdom for immediate family members of Ukrainians living in the UK.
And Albie, I'm interested to know, if you can see any silver linings in this. Is that, the response, I suppose, of the West has been incredibly united, hasn't it? And really interesting developments yesterday from Germany, for the first time in my living memory anyway, increasing their defence spend. They're now the biggest spenders on defence in the EU, 2% of GDP. A huge change in foreign policy there for Europe. And as I say, a positive to bring us all together in unison.
I think it's difficult to be talking about silver linings at the moment, to be honest, Isabel, but I think increases in defence spending, particularly from European NATO members like Germany, who do not meet the 2% NATO commitments, are definitely to be welcomed. It's actually something which President Trump was a huge advocate of during his time as president, so that's definitely a good thing, that we're finally seeing the biggest economy in Europe taking their military seriously. Because I do think it's definitely the truth that Europe has become quite complacent with our way of life, and many European nations have not been spending enough on defence.
What will the reaction all be from Europe collectively? Can't have been a surprise to Putin.
No, I don't think it can have been a surprise. But what we have seen happen in the last week, I think, is a lot more unity than we thought was initially possible. Europe's been a very divided place over COVID, over Brexit, over many things. And actually what we've seen over the last week is Europe really come together in the face of this joint threat that we all see from Putin. We've seen selected Russian banks blocked out of the SWIFT international payment system. And that has caused this morning the ruble to actually plunge by nearly a third. The Moscow Stock Exchange delayed its opening this morning, and on Asian markets, indeed, the ruble was trading down nearly a third. We're hearing reports of queues outside ATMs across Russia. So we're seeing these economic sanctions, both put in place by Europe and the US, having an impact on the Russian economy. And the question will be whether or not these economic sanctions will impact Putin's decision making.
Or the general public. I mean, what we're not really hearing is how this war, how this incursion is going down with ordinary Russians.
No, you're absolutely right. We're not hearing about what the opinions of ordinary Russians are. But one thing that does give us an indication that maybe this isn't that popular with the Russian public is that over 3,000 Russians have been arrested for protesting against this Russian invasion of Ukraine. Now, that's not something which happens very often. People do not normally protest in Russia because they might get beaten up by the police, they might get thrown in prison. But over 3,000 Russians have been arrested for protesting against this war. So that indicates to me that perhaps this war isn't as popular with the Russian public as Putin would like.
Of course, very difficult for Russians to know the true situation. It's only being described as a special operation in the Donbass region. The word war is being banned from use. It's being censored out of Russian broadcasting. But I'm interested to know whether or not you think this could be the end for Putin, what this could mean for his presidency. I mean, we saw, didn't we, yesterday, the extent of his frustration by even the fact he was talking about a nuclear response in all of this.
Yes, there are certainly some commentators talking about this being the end for Putin. I personally think that could be perhaps a little over-optimistic. We're not even a week into this war yet. Russia's army is one of the most powerful military forces in the world. I definitely understand the argument where people are saying perhaps this is a step too far for Putin. They talk about the fact that the Russian army actually doesn't have the resources to take a country the size of Ukraine for that long, which is why it's thought that these talks have been arranged between President Zelensky and the Russian government, I think near the Pripyat River, near the Belarusian border. So there are some commentators who are saying the war isn't going to plan. But I would just caution them by saying we're not even a week into it yet. So there's still a lot more tragedy which could come from this. But obviously, we're all hoping for the best.
But Albie, we have got this situation where there will be talks on the Belarus border today. What can we hope to achieve there? What way do you see those squaring up? I mean, you can't really see the Russians saying, oh, really, very sorry about this, we shouldn't have done it, let's shake hands and we'll go home.
It is difficult initially at the outset to see what these talks will achieve. First of all, because these talks are happening at the Belarusian border, and Belarus is not a neutral country when it comes to this conflict between Ukraine and Russia, because, of course, many argue that Belarus is really just a satellite state of Russia itself. I think we can certainly hope that perhaps because the war hasn't been going to plan for Russia, that Russia might want to stop their military invasion a little bit and maybe try to come to some kind of diplomatic solution. But I think we'll just have to wait and see what the results of those talks will be. I don't think we can predict what will come from those yet, because if there's anything that we have seen over the past week, is that President Putin and the Russians are totally unpredictable.
Okay. Albie Amankona, thank you very much indeed. Albie's a political commentator there with his views on the latest situation from Ukraine.